It was supposed to be just another ordinary afternoon at a cozy café tucked away on a quiet street in Berlin. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and the hum of conversations created a warm and welcoming atmosphere. At one corner table, a young waitress moved quickly between customers, her polite smile never fading even as she carried heavy trays. She was used to long hours, used to the occasional rude customer, and used to keeping her head down while doing her work. What she didn't know was that this day would turn out to be very different. The door suddenly opened, and in walked a man whose presence seemed to demand attention. His designer suit, polished shoes, and the confidence in his stride made it clear he wasn't just wealthy, he was powerful. Whispers rippled through the cafe as a few recognized him as one of the country's most well-known billionaires. He sat down with an air of superiority, glancing around as though the place was far beneath him. When the waitress approached with her usual gentle greeting, the billionaire gave a smirk and switched into German, assuming she wouldn't fully understand. His words, however, were far from kind. With a dismissive tone, he made remarks about her job, her appearance, and even her worth, speaking as though she were invisible. To him, it was just another moment of showing dominance in another person. He thought he could belittle without consequence. But what happened next left everyone frozen in silence. The young waitress, who had been listening carefully, suddenly looked him straight in the eye. She opened her mouth and replied, not just in German, but fluently and confidently. Every word she spoke carried weight, and the billionaire's smug smile began to fade as the realization hit him. The cafe grew so quiet that even the clinking of cups stopped. Customers leaned in, waiting to see what would unfold next. Oh, could you? A billionaire who thought he held all the power be challenged so directly by someone he had just insulted. And what exactly did she say that left him speechless? The answer would shock everyone in the room. The billionaire shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly not expecting a waitress to speak flawless German, let alone challenge him with such composure. His eyes darted around the cafe, perhaps hoping the attention would fade, but it was too late. Every customer had noticed, and the room felt charged with anticipation. The young woman didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm, steady tone made her words echo even louder in the silence. Who was she really? That was the question running through the minds of everyone watching. She didn't look like someone born into wealth or privilege. Her simple uniform, her tied-back hair, and her modest smile suggested someone ordinary yet in that moment. She held herself with the kind of confidence that couldn't be faked. It was as if the billionaire had accidentally woken a part of her past that she usually kept hidden. The man, used to boardrooms and people bending to his will, tried to brush it off with a dismissive laugh, but something about her reply clearly unsettled him. She had struck a nerve, and it wasn't just because she understood his language. It was because she had seen right through him. The waitress continued serving other tables, but her brief exchange with the billionaire lingered in the air. Patrons whispered among themselves, wondering if they had witnessed the beginning of something much bigger. Some looked at her with admiration, while others studied the billionaire's face, waiting to see if his pride would allow him to stay or if he would storm out. And yet, behind her calm expression, the waitress seemed to carry secrets of her own. Why did she speak German so perfectly? And how could she stand so fearless in front of one of the most powerful men in the country? The answers were not yet clear, but everyone could sense that the story was only just beginning. The billionaire leaned back in his chair, forcing a grin as if he still held control of the situation, but his eyes betrayed him. They flickered with surprise and a hint of unease. For a man used to being untouchable, even the smallest challenge felt like an insult to his pride. Yet this wasn't just any challenge, it came from someone he had already dismissed as unimportant. That made it sting even more. The waitress carried on with her work, but her posture remained firm, her steps deliberate. She didn't shrink away from the attention. Instead, she moved with quiet confidence, as if she had nothing to prove, and yet everything she did was proof enough. To the customers watching, it became clear that there was more to her than the apron and notepad suggested. Her fluency in German wasn't just a skill. It was a clue to a life no one there fully understood. Whispers continued to ripple through the cafe. Some recognized the billionaire from business magazines and news headlines. He was known for his ruthless tactics, a man who climbed his way to the top without mercy. People often said he was brilliant, but also arrogant, someone who believed money gave him the right to treat others however he pleased. Facing public embarrassment from a waitress was not something he would let go easily. Still, the mystery deepened. Why had she spoken up at all when most would have stayed silent to avoid trouble? And how did she manage to speak with such precision, not stumbling over a single word? It was as though she had been waiting for this moment, prepared for it in a way no one could explain. The billionaire's smirk faded slowly, but he didn't leave. He wasn't done, and neither was she. The real story had only just begun. The cafe felt heavier with every passing second, the air thick with unspoken questions. The billionaire, now clearly unsettled, tapped his fingers against the polished table, trying to mask his discomfort with a forced sense of control. But his voice, when he finally spoke again, carried a sharper edge. Switching between German and English, he threw subtle jabs meant to reassert his authority. He wanted to remind everyone of who he was, the man with influence, power, and wealth. Yet his words no longer landed the way he expected. The waitress stood close by, her tray balanced effortlessly in one hand, her gaze steady. There was no fear in her expression. Every time he spoke, she answered with calm precision, her German flawless, her tone unwavering. The contrast between his arrogance and her quiet strength grew more striking, and the customers could feel the tension building. Like a storm about to break, murmurs spread across the cafe as people leaned in, drawn to the unfolding drama. Phones slipped discreetly out of pockets, recording the exchange that felt too unreal not to capture. This wasn't just a rude customer anymore. This was a billionaire being challenged in a way no one had ever dared. And the waitress, who had seemed so ordinary only minutes before, was standing at the center of it. The billionaire's jaw tightened. For the first time, his usual confidence seemed to falter. He demanded to know how she spoke German so perfectly, his voice louder now, sharp enough to make nearby cups rattle against their saucers. His pride was on the line, and he wasn't prepared to lose face in front of a room full of strangers. The waitress set down the tray with deliberate care, her eyes never leaving his. The cafe grew so quiet that even the hum of the refrigerator in the back seemed louder. Everyone waited, hearts racing, knowing that something explosive was about to happen. The moment hovered at the edge of breaking, and no one dared to look. Away the silence stretched, and just when it seemed the billionaire had regained a shred of control, the waitress spoke again. Her words were calm, but this time she didn't only answer his insults, she revealed something that no one in the cafe expected. In flawless German, she mentioned details about the billionaire's past business trips to Munich, about the very companies he had invested in, and even about meetings that weren't supposed to be public knowledge. The cafe erupted in murmurs of disbelief. How could she possibly know such things? The billionaire's face went pale. He leaned forward, his polished image slipping, his voice lowering into a sharp whisper that carried further than he intended. He demanded to know who she was, why she knew so much, and whether she was working for someone trying to expose him. The once casual cafe scene had now transformed into a stage for something far bigger than a simple argument. Customers stared, wide-eyed, realizing they weren't just watching a clash of words, they were witnessing secrets being dragged into the light. The waitress, however, did not flinch. She met his glare with the same steady confidence, her voice steady, almost challenging. She didn't reveal everything, but the hints she dropped were enough to suggest a hidden connection between her world and his. Her fluency in German was no accident. Her knowledge of his empire was no coincidence. The billionaire's fists clenched on the table, the polished exterior cracking as panic and anger fought for control. Every eye in the cafe was locked on the two of them, waiting for the next word, the next reveal. The stakes had suddenly grown far beyond pride. Whatever this waitress knew had the power to shake more than just his ego. Wick could shake his reputation, his influence, maybe even his empire. And in that moment, it became clear. This confrontation was only the beginning. Something much larger was about to unfold. The billionaire's voice rose, cracking through the stillness of the cafe as he demanded answers. His face flushed with frustration, his once confident posture now leaning forward in desperation. "Who are you?" he snapped, his German laced with fury. For the first time, his arrogance had given way to fear. He had built his empire on control, but here, in this small cafe, he had lost it completely.